Ready to put this show on the air. There was some breaking weather news from our Fox affiliate down in Orlando, and this is their live coverage of a tornado that touched down very near to their actual studios. We were looking at meteorologist Noah Bergen there, and they were estimating that the tornado that went through there was an EF0, possibly an EF1. I'm going to let you listen in here a little bit because the coverage of this was very good.
Guys, anchors under the desks. Everybody get on the desks. Okay, that was it. We're still in debris zone. Everybody get in. Everybody get in the studio. Come on in, guys. Okay, we got...
That was live this morning, and again, covering a tornado.
Incredible.
Passing by the studio. Can you imagine? Yeah, and taking shelter in the actual television station there. So it was a radar-confirmed tornado, struck Seminole County this morning near the Fox 35 News Studios in Central Florida. It's in Orlando, Florida. Here's what we know. We got Ellen Harris, spokesperson for the Seminole County Emergency Management, confirming multiple reports of damage, collapsed home, overturned cars, trees fallen over roads, power lines. You're seeing some of that damage right there. As of this point anyway, no injuries have been reported. The coverage of that, shout out to our coworkers down there in Florida.
Yeah.
The intensity of that, having to do it, period, whether it's in your backyard or not, is intense. And then knowing that that was coming toward the station.
Right, and having to tell all of your colleagues to shelter because a tornado is coming. It is very nerve-wracking in general to do severe weather coverage, but when one is actually impacting your station and, a workplace where there are a lot of people, that adds another extra layer of stress. That's video. Again, you can even see debris. Obviously, the rain is really heavy. You can see debris in that video. And some of the other damage video that we showed, that was from the parking lot of this news station, too. So just... incredible. This happened this morning.
Right, just a couple of hours ago. Obviously, they got through it, and everybody's in good shape right there. And then they were immediately out in their own parking lot covering the event as it occurred at the station right there. We'll continue to track that and update you through the course of the day today. Our day, I'm happy to report, is much, much calmer. A stark contrast by comparison. Beautiful, very nice day. Of course, sometimes, there's a lining that isn't as silver. It may seem really nice, but there are some hidden problems with days like today.
Exactly. And we are talking about above average warmth, dry conditions. We are in drought conditions too. In fact, moderate drought conditions. And with the strong wind that we had yesterday and today, we're talking fire danger.
That's right. And you remember, of course, yesterday, you were probably seeing this all over our air, all over Fox Local, all over social media. Of course, the Brookfield fires of yesterday. You can see the dramatic video there. And obviously, our crews raced to get out there. The locals were, racing to kind of get out ahead of it, evacuations there. And now we're starting to see some of the aftermath as well. I think if we take a look here in just a second at some of the live video, there you go. You can see what was ongoing, but now, of course, we're getting some reports of a lot of cars from the dealership there that were damaged by that stuff. And, fire not only has the direct burning impact, but all of that smoke, of course, is fine particulates that then have to come down somewhere.
Right, exactly. The smoke was very dark. It does impact air quality, of course. So not only something incredibly scary to see, but you will still be dealing with it in the aftermath. But this also impacted, a neighborhood. There were evacuations and even backyards of some of the houses within that neighborhood.
Family homes were definitely a threat if it hadn't been taken care of as quickly as it was. And we give a big shout out to, of course, our emergency responders that took care of this. Had it not been gotten under control as quickly as it did, it could have been a much, much bigger impact, as it was, obviously, a major situation. And one of the key ingredients to this is the dry air. Tom Walks has a look at relative humidity and fire weather.
Well, we don't often talk about relative humidity in meteorology, but you've heard of it before, right? And there are probably a lot of folks on apps that will look at the relative humidity, or you'll hear from your friend or someone that will say, oh, well, the relative humidity is only 46%, so it's not very humid outside. Let me start out by saying, don't ever use relative humidity. The only time we use relative humidity in meteorology from what we call an operational or really useful standpoint is to diagnose when the air is dry enough for fire weather potential. It is not an indicator of how humid the air is, and that's really important. Let me explain here. Note how relative humidity is a percent. So what this is indicating is how much air the water can currently hold at the given temperature versus how much water is in the air right now. So again, it is relative to the air temperature. So again, it's how much water the air is in the air right now versus how much water the air can hold at that given temperature. What does that mean? Well, that means that when the temperature is cooler, the relative humidity is going to be higher. So we use dew point when it comes to that comfort level of how humid it is. But have you ever noticed on a summer-like day, it might be 90, the dew point's in the 60s where it's really humid, but the relative humidity looks low. Well, that's because it's relative to the air temperature. Warmer air can hold more water. Colder air holds less water. So again, relative humidity. This is why we don't ever talk about it. It's on some apps where relative humidity is on the app, dew point's not on the app. Always use dew point when it comes to comfort. But relative humidity is what we talk about really when we're talking about fire weather. And let's talk about this here because the risk ingredients for fires are several. Number one, above average temperatures. Number two, low relative humidity. So especially when the relative humidity is 25% or lower. That's when you know conditions are really getting dry. Number three, strong winds. That's a big factor as well. And then number four is dry fuels like dry vegetation as grass and shrubs and trees. If you're in drought conditions, obviously you're going to know you're in that drier kind of zone as well. So all of these play a big role. Relative humidity, or how dry that air is one of them. But again, let me recap here what this is. So it's how much water the air is holding versus how much water the air can hold at the current temperature, where dew point is a degree. Dew point is a measure of moisture in the air, a permanent measure, not relative to the current temperature. Relative humidity will be higher in the morning because it is colder. So you'll see those numbers again higher because colder air can't hold as much water. Use dew point for a feels like gauge, not relative humidity. So this is where you could really tell all of your friends who say, well, the relative humidity is this. Don't use it. Only use it from a fire gauge standpoint. When the relative humidity is 25% or below, winds are strong, ground is dry, there's really a higher fire risk. Now, this can be offset a little bit as well at times where maybe you have a slightly higher relative humidity, but you know that the ground is dry, temperatures are warm, and the wind is very strong. So it's also possible that you can have a little bit higher relative humidity and still have a fire risk. So again, we covered a lot here, but relative humidity is just that. It is relative to the current air temperature, and from a meteorological standpoint, it's really only useful when we're diagnosing if we have fire conditions. So always use dew point unless you're talking about those dry fire conditions. That's when you're going to start looking at relative humidity.
All right, there we have it. Relative humidity, very useful when we're talking about fire weather. And of course, it's a measurement we'll be watching very closely for the next few days.
Because we have very similar conditions today, especially compared to yesterday. We're going to drop a little bit temperature-wise in the next couple of days. But let's take a look at our current fire risk in southeast Wisconsin. Then we'll broaden the view. We do have a moderate fire risk across all of southeast Wisconsin. And as we look at the state, out west, there's actually a high fire risk. Up north, a low fire risk. But most of central and southern Wisconsin, either moderate or low. And remember, our ingredients today are very similar to yesterday. That relative humidity right now, just over 40%, but it will continue to drop throughout the afternoon. Now, there is an even higher threat out west. All that pink, those are red flag warnings. So fire danger is elevated out west. We don't have that here locally. And in all honesty, we don't often have too many brush fires like we saw yesterday in Brookfield, but it's always something now when we have these conditions that we need to keep in the back of our minds at the very least.
Yeah, we do have favorable conditions for the next few days, so we will be watching that very, very closely, of course, if things do break out, and we hope they don't, but if they do, we'll be the first ones to tell you about it. All right, let's shift gears now because we've got an interesting week, you know, putting the fire risk aside, it's a beautiful day today, but the March roller coaster just keeps rolling.
Exactly. We still have dry weather ahead, but temperatures, they're actually going to drop in the next couple of days. So let's take a look across the U.S. Let's talk regional weather here. We're quiet. There's a couple of systems out there, but overall, much of the U.S. looking very quiet at the moment. Now, here in Wisconsin in the upper plains, we're watching the system up towards the north, not necessarily here locally for precip, but that cold front is what's going to bring back 40s for temperatures the next couple of days. So we're dropping Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we're going to start to climb again. Friday, we're likely going to be back to near record high temperatures, not here, but across the upper plains as 60s return. And then there is that system down towards the south. Again, that severe weather across portions of Florida, that tornado report that we just talked about earlier in the show, just north of Orlando. There is one severe thunderstorm warning you can see along the east coast of Florida, but some of these showers and thunderstorms do extend northward into portions of the Carolinas as well as Georgia. That will be moving out throughout the remainder of the afternoon. There is that one tornado report, technically from Lake Mary, I believe, just north of Orlando. And look at all of these heavy rainfall reports right on the border there of Florida as well as Georgia. So this system down south did also produce some decent rainfall totals. Now back up towards the north, starting to see a few clouds across the upper plains, the Dakotas, Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, but we're the spots who are going to enjoy those near record high temperatures today. I know there's a lot of precipitation associated with this front and with this system, but this is all going to move due east, so most of it is not really going to impact us, especially in southern Wisconsin. It may impact northern Michigan, or northern Minnesota, I should say, into northern Wisconsin, but the farther south you go, we're going to stay dry. Take a look at forecasted high temperatures today. A lot of 70s across the central and southern U.S. Here in Milwaukee, mid-60s, and same with Bismarck, and even off towards the east, 50s and 60s for high temperatures. Look at the record highs for today. A lot of spots will at least be close. We may not see a ton of new records across the U.S. today. I think some out west may actually see that on Friday, but our record high in Milwaukee today is 68, so we'll likely only be a few degrees short, but if we warm a few more degrees, then we'll be close. So we do have some nice warmth ahead of us for today. Again, in Milwaukee, the forecast high 66, the current record is 68, but places like Green Bay, La Crosse, Eau Claire, Oshkosh, even Rhinelander all have the chance to hit record high temperatures today. So across Wisconsin, it's going to be a warm day. Roller coaster temperatures, though, from here. So today's a warm day. You can see some cooler air across the upper plains then Tuesday into Wednesday, but then we start to warm up a little bit more towards the end of the week and then drop again briefly over the weekend before warming up again. So once again, we just are still going to be very up and down and back and forth here. That's the way March normally is, especially for parts of the Great Lakes region as well as the upper plains. Now that is a latest look at regional weather. We still have a lot more coming up on our Wisconsin weather experts. In fact, meteorologist Lisa Michaels is going to talk about some of the dust that we actually saw here from the southwest last week. Very interesting stuff. For now, we'll take a live look outside on this beautiful Monday. Welcome back, everybody, out here on the beautiful weather deck on a 60-degree day.
Oh, my goodness. And we're headed for some mid-60s like you were talking about, maybe into record territory today. You know, for some folks, this, if you're not from around here, this maybe isn't warm enough yet. But for a lot of Wisconsinites, this is shorts and T-shirt weather today.
Flip-flops.
So we have our photojournalist, Gabby, out and about, and she's getting some great video for us this morning, a live camera, checking out, we're down at Bradford Beach.
Beautiful.
Only a couple, 3 folks out so far, but there's a few more if we pan around.
Well, students have to let classes end first. You know, Bradford is like where all of the students go.
Those UWM
all those college kids.
And Marquette and MSOE folks are going to head down there shortly. Gabby, if you can hear me, I'm just curious, what do you think of our beautiful day today? You're live on location for us.
Oh my gosh, Rob and Stephanie, I cannot complain about this gorgeous, beautiful weather we have out here. You know, seeing a lot of people coming out here for, you know, beautiful walk and beautiful run. You know, even I've seen a couple people wearing, you know, just sweatshirts and shorts because it's just early spring already has upon us.
Yeah, well, that's a good way to put it, because if you compare this to the climatological norms, this would be like a late May, kind of mid-May type day. So that's what it feels like to you if it weren't for the little piles of snow along the fence there, maybe? Or is that sand?
Well, being at Bradford Beach, it makes me want to go swimming.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Yes. Well, you know, it's funny you bring that up, Gabby. It's a good point to make, because even though it is a beautiful day and the air temperatures are quite high, the water temperature lags behind the air temperature for several months more. It won't be comfy swimming weather. Don't go jumping into this unless you're, you know, in a wetsuit or a dry suit or something to protect you, because it's not that kind of swimming weather yet, Gabby. So be careful. Well, thank you for getting.
Rob, we'll do.
Okay, good.
She's like, I'm not going in there.
She's like, I was not really going to do it, dude.
I love it.
Oh, thank you so much. So it's great just to even see those scenes, Steph.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, look at the selfies ongoing.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
Love it.
All right, well, switching gears, meteorologist Lisa Michaels is in the weather office talking about some of the dust that we talked about in the Southwest yesterday. Lisa, we saw this here locally in some way.
We did. And you know, Steph sent in some great photos from seeing it herself. And we brought you this video last week of that blinding dust that made it hazardous to drive in. Of course, very poor visibility on the roads. And while it looked really bad in portions of the Southwest, believe it or not, that dust actually made it here to the Midwest, heading into areas not only of Illinois, Wisconsin, but stretching all the way to Kentucky. Now, you may be wondering, well, we didn't see anything like that, so how did it get here locally? It all had to do with that dust being lofted high into the atmosphere. And then that was transported or carried via the winds to the Midwest, as we had a weak low pressure system in the area here with some rain. After that rain left, you may have seen this on your cars. This is where we're going to show you a picture of what we're calling dirty rain. Kelly sent this in. This is from Waverly, Ohio, and you may have woke up in the morning seeing this on your car. Again, it appears almost like pollen, or if we had, again, maybe something else just lingering on your vehicle, but in fact, this was the dust. The dust, when it was lofted into the air, it actually sticks to those rain droplets. Rain droplets are not just water vapor. They actually have little particulate matter in them, which in this case was the dust that was from that dust event. When that came down with the raindrops, it looked like rain, but that moisture all evaporated off of surfaces where that rain fell, and what it left was this, all that dust in the air that came down with the rain. While the moisture evaporated into the air, the dust stayed on surfaces. So yeah, a lot of people maybe needed an extra car wash. I actually had this on my car too. It was quite an event, but really a cool phenomenon to see happen, where impacts from across the United States can also travel and impact us here locally. So that's what that is. If you saw a little bit of a dusty mess or dirty rain on your car as we push through the past several days.
And we all live in the same atmospheric fishbowl, essentially.
Right.
So like with the dust and sometimes with forest fires, when we can smell that or we see the smoke particulates in the air, we got the dust particulates. And yeah, some folks were probably wishing they hadn't got a car wash that day because they needed another one immediately.
Right, exactly.
Wow. Okay, and there's the beautiful, beautiful shot that we have from downtown, checking out our historic City Hall. There's another great shot as we switch over to the top of the Modern Building, looking across Brew City and out toward that lake. Look at how calm the lake is right now, Stephanie.
Get outside and enjoy it. Again, we're in the 60s already, and the entire state of Wisconsin has a chance to see record high temperatures today. So a beautiful Monday in store.
We'll be right back with more Wisconsin weather experts. Huge.
Exactly. And I mean, with it being the Hamptons, think of the houses.
Yes.
That's what I'm thinking of. Now, I have not seen any damage reports or anything like that, but it is definitely a higher end area.
For sure, yes. I mean, we've all seen movies about the Hamptons. We know it. We know that there's a few very expensive homes and very rich families there that were probably clutching their pearls, as they used to say back in the day, with that fire. And we don't blame them when, of course, we wish them nothing but the best, regardless of how big or little your home might be. We want you safe and sound, no matter what what side of the planet you happen to be on, too. Some good news coming from Australia is there's been a downgrade now to what they call Cyclone Alfred. That's been downgraded. Millions of Australians were sheltering inside. It was downgraded now to what they call a tropical low. The storm has been threatened, or was threatening at least, to do some pretty serious damage to the city of Brisbane. According to their Bureau of Meteorology there, Alfred crossed the islands just off the coast of Queensland during the late hours of the night, and now is aiming towards the mainland, which means, of course, the more it interacts with land, the less intense it'll be. That additional friction of the land surfaces and, of course, the rugged terrain of Australia. So thousands were evacuated. Local media there reporting about 250,000 people with power outages. That's a huge number there as well. Authorities continuing to urge residents to stay indoors. So far, very happy to report no deaths have been reported. Of course, hurricanes aren't all called hurricanes, right? There's typhoons in different parts of the world. Obviously, this is a cyclone, tropical cyclone, all the same phenomena.
Right. They're all tropical systems. They all just have different names based on where they are located, but they all do the same damage. You think of the very strong wind, the flooding rainfall, the storm surge. It's essentially all the same.
Absolutely. And if you have a question similar to that, like what's the difference between a typhoon and a hurricane, you can always ask us. And we've made it even easier for you to do that. All you have to do is point your phone at that crazy little squiggly box called a QR code, and your phone will pop up with a link. You follow the link through, you fill out the very short form, and it lets you ask any question you would like, and we try to answer as many as we can.
We do.
If you want to help us out with the show, please ask a question.
And we love nerding out a little bit.
Well,
so
that's
please
right.
Send in your questions.
We get to show off some of our studies from back in the day.
Yeah.
And of course, we always like to look for some fun weather, too.
We do. And so we're going to head out west to the LA area. Look at this. That is snow. Of course, at higher elevations, but still amazing to see something different in LA, right? That is snow falling in the mountains over the weekend.
Well,
Just
that's what
incredible.
Californians tend to brag about, that you can go surfing in the morning and skiing in the afternoon because you drive up into the mountains and it's essentially an entirely different climate. But, you know, that close to LA, it is a little bit of a different situation right there. Folks down in LA have had a lot to deal with, of course, the wildfires recently. Now, of course, they've got this snow on top of all of that. And they're always busy with fog, the marine layer down there.
Yeah, and they oftentimes, too, and as of late, have been dealing with those atmospheric rivers, too, where it's system after system. In fact, there's a system, the official low, just off the coast right now, so we'll continue to bring this area precipitation in the coming days.
There you go. It may snow at the higher elevations, but then it'll be rain a little farther south, or a little farther down the mountain, I suppose. Again, thank you so much for joining us for yet another episode here of Wisconsin's Weather Experts. If you enjoyed it, please tell a friend and make sure that everybody downloads the Fox Local app. It is a free app.
Yes, it is. Easy to get. We're Monday through Friday now, 12 to 12:30, which means we have awesome content every single day for you besides a normal newscast.
Right, and we repeat right after. So if you missed something from the beginning of the show is going to start again in a couple of minutes, or it'll always be on the app for you to watch anytime you like. We'll see you again tomorrow for another edition of Wisconsin Weather Experts right here on Fox Local.